found a humanoid monster on Mars. Thinking it was an alien, Shokichi immediately greeted it.
Haro.
But the monster charged without warning, snapping the neck of Shokichi's girlfriend, Nanao. This muscular creature wasn't actually a Martian, but a mutated cockroach called a terraformer. Forced to watch Nanao die before his eyes, Shokichi was consumed by immense grief and rage. He asked the monster why it did this, but the creature ignored him completely. To the powerful terraformer, humans were as weak and insignificant as ants. In a flash, the creature vanished stylishly into the distance. Shokichi carried Nanao's body back to the spaceship. There, he learned another teammate named Mariki had also been killed by terraformers. Panic quickly spread among the crew. Their mission was only to eliminate cockroaches on Mars, but no one expected them to be such terrifying creatures. When confronted by Shokichi's angry questions, the captain finally revealed the truth behind their mission. 500 years ago, facing overpopulation and scarce resources on Earth, humans began an ambitious plan to colonize Mars. To improve Mars' harsh environment and make it livable, they first raised the planet's surface temperature. Then, they sent moss and resilient cockroaches to Mars. But no one predicted that centuries later, these cockroaches would mutate dramatically, adapting to Mars's extreme conditions. Previously, humans sent a spaceship called Annex 1 to investigate, but tragically the entire crew was wiped out. Determined to carry out their colonization plan, they now sent a new spaceship called Bugs 2. Dr. Honda, who led this mission, had recruited prisoners by promising freedom and money. He only told them their job was to kill cockroaches, but conveniently omitted just how dangerous these creatures were. Clearly, they'd all been tricked. Suddenly, Dr. Honda appeared as a hologram inside the ship. Angry, Shokichi punched through the projection, demanding to know why he had lied to everyone, but Dr. Honda told him to calm down. This time, they weren't unprepared. Before departing Earth, Dr. Honda had modified each crew member by implanting insect DNA into their bodies. By injecting themselves with a special activator, they could briefly gain superhuman powers, strong enough to battle the terraformers. After explaining, the captain uploaded each crew member's unique insect abilities into their brains, but he warned them to use their abilities sparingly. Overuse could be deadly. Right after he finished speaking, a terraformer suddenly appeared outside the ship. At that moment, a battle-hardened mercenary named God Lee stepped forward. He was ready to take on the creature himself. Seeing how calm and confident God Lee was, everyone thought he would win easily. He injected the activator into his body and transformed into a bombardier beetle. Even so, his combat strength was far beyond normal humans. Facing the powerful terraformer, he held his ground without flinching. God Lee could even shoot scorching flames from his hands. He planned to finish the fight with that move. He thought he could burn the terraformer to death, but to his surprise, it had no effect at all. After all, surviving for hundreds of years on Mars required a body far stronger than fire alone could defeat. Just as God Lee was about to attack again, the terraformer flashed forward and ended him in an instant. Everyone was stunned. And then, in the very next second, the terraformer appeared on the ship. It began slamming its head against the glass repeatedly, trying to break into the cabin. Vice Captain Zhang tried to calm everyone down, saying the reinforced glass on Bugs 2 was unbreakable. But before she could even finish his sentence, the terraformer smashed through the window and killed 2 crew members instantly. Seeing this, the captain injected the activator into his body. He transformed into a bullet ant. As expected, the bullet ant form was fierce. His punches were like bullets, and in just one strike, he took down the terraformer. But before they could celebrate, the ship's radar scanned more terraformers rapidly approaching. With that many enemies, they knew they didn't stand a chance. So the captain gave the order to abort the mission and return to Earth. But at that moment, the ship's launch system suddenly failed. Their only option now was to head to the nearby Annex 1 ship and transfer its system into Bugs 2. Since both ships used the same system, they could relaunch if the transplant worked. The captain chose to stay behind and hold off the swarm. He ordered Vice Captain Zhang to lead the others to Annex 1. Ichiro also volunteered to stay and fight beside the captain. Before leaving, Shokichi went to say goodbye to his girlfriend Nanao's body, but saw a strange antenna growing from her head. Soon, the others boarded the space rover. At this moment, Tezuka's ability came in handy. He injected the activator into his neck, and a tube immediately extended from his mouth. As soon as the hatch opened, they saw the area outside swarming with terraformers. Tezuka got ready. His cheeks puffed up like a toad. Then a burst of fire exploded out of his mouth. The powerful force launched the space rover forward like a rocket, blasting straight through the horde of monsters and pushing the vehicle far away in an instant. It turned out that Tezuka had the powers of a Jerusalem cricket. He could release gas from his tail to escape danger at incredible speed. His top speed reached over 1,000 kilometers per hour. Thanks to his constant boost, the space rover sped rapidly toward the destination. The 2 girls couldn't help but praise him, but soon, a new threat appeared. A giant wall suddenly suddenly rose in front of them. At first it looked like a rushing tsunami, but when they looked closer, they realized it was made up of countless terraformers. A cockroach tsunami. Their only option was to charge through it at full speed. As the rover crashed into the cockroach wave, countless limbs and broken bodies slammed into the windshield. Tezuka took a beating on the roof, but he kept going with sheer determination. Finally, the rover burst through the swarm. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. After a quick break, Tezuka pushed forward again, but when Vice Captain Zhang looked ahead, his smile instantly vanished. Another massive cockroach tsunami was coming. This time, Tezuka wouldn't last. To help cover for him, the two girls decided to transform. They both had the power of hard-shelled beetles. Their huge pincers were great for defense. As the swarm approached, Tezuka went all out with his firepower, and the girls braced for impact. The cockroach tsunami swallowed the rover. A powerful shockwave followed. Even with the two girls protecting it, the impact was just too strong. As the rover broke through, it flipped over from lack of thrust. All three of them were thrown off. The people inside were knocked unconscious by the force. Luckily, before the terraformers reached them, the rover switched to autopilot and carried the unconscious crew away from danger. But the three who were left behind were in serious trouble. The ground was crawling with terraformers, closing in fast. Exhausted from the last battle, the three were now like lambs waiting for slaughter. The two girls were the first to fall. Using his last bit of strength, Tezuka stood up again, but he couldn't escape his fate. He was killed too. Meanwhile, back at the Bugs 2 spaceship, the captain and Ichiro were locked in a desperate fight. They lured most of the terraformers inside the ship. Then, the captain ordered Ichiro to seal the ship's shield. They released all the oxygen from the ship, hoping to kill the terraformers in a final, self-sacrificial assault. As the oxygen dropped lower and lower, the terraformers started collapsing one by one. Their combat ability was greatly reduced. The captain could now finish them off with a single punch, but after killing them all, both the captain and Ichiro passed out from lack of oxygen. Meanwhile, the space rover safely reached its destination. The unconscious crew began to wake up, but when they tried to start the Annex 1 ship, they found that its system was also malfunctioning. Suddenly, gunshots rang out outside. Two crew members didn't even have time to transform, and were killed by the terraformers on the spot. When the three of them walked out, they were shocked to see that the terraformers could use guns too. At this point, Shokichi had no choice but to transform. He became the most powerful insect of them all, the Asian giant hornet. His arms carried deadly venomous stingers that could kill a strong terraformer with a single hit. Seeing how powerful Shokichi was, Muto couldn't hold back anymore, and injected himself as well. He turned into a desert locust, with extremely strong legs and amazing kicking power. In contrast, Vice Captain Zhang transformed into a mantis. Her sharp arms were like blades, cutting through terraformers as if slicing vegetables. With the three of them working together, they quickly wiped out more than a dozen terraformers. Meanwhile, back on Bugs 2, the ship's oxygen system was slowly recovering, but the dying captain suddenly saw another terraformer appear inside, pointing a gun right at him. Just when he had no idea what was going on, the terraformer's body split open. Inside was someone unexpected, Mariki, the crew member everyone thought had died long ago. Mariki was a flat-headed wasp. Her special stinger allowed her to control the terraformers' brains and turn them into her puppets. That was how she had survived earlier, by taking control of a terraformer. It turned out she wasn't on Mars just to kill cockroaches. She had a secret mission from Dr. Honda, to bring a terraformer egg back to Earth. Since the captain didn't agree with the plan, she had no choice but to shoot and kill him. Even Ichiro, lying nearby, was actually her accomplice. Mariki poured a cup of water over Ichiro's body, and within seconds, he came back to life. Ichiro was a sleeping chironomid with an almost invincible survival ability. In that state, he could survive boiling water for 2.5 minutes, temperatures below -200 degrees, or even a vacuum, and all it took was a cup of water to fully revive him. The ship's launch system hadn't really malfunctioned either. It was Ichiro who had sabotaged it. Their mission was simple: bring the terraformer egg back to Earth. Now that Mariki had placed the egg on the ship, they just needed to restart the launch and return home. Meanwhile, Shokichi and his team were on their way back to Bugs 2 when they heard the roar of the ship's engines. Suddenly, a drone flew in front of them, controlled by none other than Dr. Honda. He had been secretly watching them the whole time. Now that his plan was almost complete, Dr. Honda revealed the entire truth. Although the Annex 1 mission ended in total failure, the escape pod had returned to Earth, and it brought back the head of a terraformer. Using that head, they developed a formula that combined insect DNA with human DNA. But the tech wasn't mature yet, so they launched the Bugs 2 mission, not to kill cockroaches, but to test the crew's battle data and smuggle a terraformer egg back to Earth. Only the egg could push their research further and help them create perfect insect-human hybrids, a super army as powerful as nuclear weapons. After hearing all this, Shokichi wanted nothing more than to return to Earth and kill Dr. Honda. but with no transport left, they couldn't make it back before the ship took off. Back on the ship, Mariki and Ichiro were preparing for launch when they noticed strange movement inside the egg. To their shock, 2 baby terraformers had already hatched. Twins. The newborns burst out of the egg in a bizarre pose. Mariki was surprised, but not panicked. She believed her power could control them. As the twin terraformers stood up, she flashed forward and stabbed each of them in the brain with her venom. She thought everything was under her control, but when she gave her command, the terraformers didn't obey. Instead, they turned on her and killed her on the spot. Clearly, these twins were not ordinary. Their bodies had evolved once again. At that moment, the ship was already taking off, but the twin terraformers let out a strange, high-pitched cry, as if calling for help. The terraformers on the ground heard it and suddenly evolved wings, transforming into flying terraformers. They all launched into the air, rushing toward the ship. In no time, the entire ship was swarmed, and finally overwhelmed by their weight, the spaceship was dragged down, crashing back to the surface. Ichiro was just about to inject the serum to fight back, but one of the terraformers kicked him hard, knocking him out cold again. As the number of terraformers kept increasing, the spaceship crash-landed, right on top of where Shokichi and the others were. This was clearly beyond Dr. Honda's expectations. At that moment, Shokichi, Muto, and Zhang were completely surrounded by a swarm of terraformers, led by 2 even more evolved ones. A massive battle was now unavoidable. As the enemy charged at them, the 3 quickly injected their serum. The regular terraformers were no match for them, but those 2 special leaders were different. They had distinct markings on their foreheads and clearly acted as the commanders of the swarm. Shokichi tried to sneak attack one of the leaders, but got knocked out with a single punch. It was obvious these 2 were way stronger. Even their movements looked more human than insect. Then one of the leaders attacked Muto. Vice Captain Zhang rushed in to help, but became the first to fall in battle. Zhang's death triggered Muto's rage. Without caring about the danger, he injected himself with another dose. His appearance changed, and his power increased drastically. He crushed several terraformers with ease, but that still wasn't enough for him. With a third injection, Muto suddenly grew wings. The terraformers also began flapping their wings, flying up to challenge him. A fierce aerial battle broke out in the sky. Muto grabbed a terraformer, spun like a deadly tornado, and won the air fight in a flash. But the serum's side effects soon kicked in. His body began reacting badly. A giant hammer terraformer struck him midair and sent him flying. Refusing to give up, Muto ignored Shokichi's warnings and injected himself a 4th time, then a 5th. He launched a full-force attack on one of the leaders. Shockingly, he actually took the leader down. The other terraformers froze in fear, but Muto had used up all his strength. He could no longer fight. The terraformers rushed in to avenge their fallen leader, but Shokichi stepped in just in time to stop them. By now, Muto had fully transformed into a grasshopper. He could never return to human form again. Enraged, Shokichi charged toward the remaining leader, but he was no match. The leader easily blocked his attack and even snapped off his deadly stingers. Shokichi threw a desperate punch, but it didn't hurt the leader at all. Instead, he was brutally kicked across the battlefield. Just as the leader stepped forward to end the fight with one final blow, his raised fist suddenly stopped in midair, because a glowing figure appeared in the sky above them. Shokichi turned around and was shocked to see Nanao, the same Nanao who had her neck snapped at the start. It turned out her transformation was the silkworm moth, so after dying, she went into a cocoon and was reborn as a moth. Nanao flapped her wings gently and began scattering scales from above. The terraformers were completely confused. Only Muto and Shokichi noticed something was wrong. Nanao was trying to trigger a massive dust explosion using the powder from her wings. In other words, she was planning to self-destruct. When Shokichi realized this, he refused to accept it. He still wanted to return to Earth with her. His deep love for Nanao made him evolve, and he suddenly grew wings. He flew toward her without hesitation. But just before he could reach her, a terraformer picked up a weapon from the ground and pulled the trigger at the 2 of them in the sky. A massive explosion followed. All the surrounding terraformers were killed instantly. As the firestorm closed in on Shokichi, Muto used his last bit of strength to pull him out and save his life. Shokichi could only watch helplessly as Nanao was swallowed by the flames. After the huge explosion, both Shokichi and Muto fell from the sky. When Shokichi woke up, he had returned to his human form, but Muto had overdosed on the serum and soon died from the side effects. Unexpectedly, the leader and a few terraformers were still alive. However, the leader was at his limit too. Without transforming, Shokichi landed a solid punch and knocked the leader down. As the leader lay weakly on the ground, Shokichi didn't finish him off. He chose to spare him instead. Back at the ship, Shokichi found that Ichiro was also alive. It turned out some spilled water had accidentally saved him. At this point, Ichiro no longer wanted to fight for Dr. Honda. He also chose to let Shokichi go. After all, Dr. Honda was the real villain. The two boarded the escape pod together and prepared to return to Earth, ready to expose everything that had happened. The terraformers on the ground tried to chase them, but the leader stopped them. Now that he had evolved intelligence, maybe he never wanted to fight humans at all. He just wanted to protect his home and his fellow terraformers.